A special thank you to Glenn Kramer, Mark Ware, Byron Colley, Steve Dix, Bill Schreiber, Christopher Hunt, Felix Rodriguez, James Rogers, Norman Fair, Daniel Mayer, Kyle Sarpolis, Leland Lampkins, Lonnie Meisner, Michael Douglas, Paul Wood, Michael Scott, Samuel Draney, and Tom Champion.
Welcome back to another Slot Car Fun episode. Yeah, it's Saturday. And I know sometimes I do this on Sunday, but today I'm doing it on Saturday. We had a big selfie stick. You know, I have a tripod now. Maybe I should use it. What do you think? How about that? And I even got this little remote, which works with it. It was super expensive. It was $9 from Amazon. I got it the next day. But now it's steady and you don't have to get out your bark bags. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, another Blip Ship t-shirt. And yes, blipship.com. Blip, God, it's on the shirt. Blip, yes, Blip. Blip Shipped. Blipship.com. And, you know, I don't get any money any more than Dave does, which he doesn't, for pushing Blip Ship. But they have fantastic shirts. And recently, most of all the shirts that they have been modern cars. And, you know, I'm just not a big fan of modern cars. I mean, they're so over-engineered and over-designed and electronic. And then there's the bodies on them. They're just, I mean, the Ford GT 40 was incredibly beautiful car. The new version is it's okay. It's just not this, you know. And that goes for Ferraris and BMWs and everything. So I like to get the shirts when they have, you know, classic Glory Days of Racing shirts, and I have quite a few of them. And I love them. And if you like nice car t-shirts, I think, in my opinion, they have the best, and they're the best prices too. And these are like $18, and the shipping's like $4 or something like that. So basically, you ended up getting a shirt for about $20 or $21, right in there. And they're great. And I put them through the wash a million times, and they stay nice. So anyway, so much for boasting Blip Ship. What I want to talk about this week? What do I want to talk about this week? I'll tell you what I want to talk about this week. I want to talk about, oh, and you know, I have to go get something, so all I have to do is go. I'm back. Okay, so I wanted to talk about this. Eddie Shorer's book, Slot Car Racing in Popular Culture. Now, I remember when he first talked about this book on Facebook. I was at the last slot car meet, and I think I talked about this. And in fact, I interviewed Eddie himself. I threw a blank there for a minute about it in the last video. Was that? No, it was 2 videos ago. When is it? Stephen Farr Jones's house. Anyway, so then we had the race down there at Electric Dreams, and I had been reading this book, and I have to say, this book inspired me. I mean, I'm already inspired about slot cars. And, you know, I have a lot of hobbies, but probably my 3 favorites, and probably I'm repeating myself, but my 3 favorites are, let's put them in proper order. Number 1, slot cars. Number 2, I hate actually doing this. Let's just say slot cars, model airplanes, and rocketry. Then there's RC, radio-controlled submarines. Some of you probably didn't know that was done. It is. And a number of other types of hobbies, painting, sculpting, making monsters, yada, 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 yada. And filmmaking. Let's not forget filmmaking. I do that. But, you know, reading this book kind of pushed it right back to the top again. It took me back to the days when I was hanging out with my dad and going to the commercial tracks, and the people back then And you know what? The people back then, and a lot of them are still here. I'm still here. I started racing, I think, 1960. What was I? 10 years old. By the time I was 12, I was doing really well. I was building my own cars and frames and all that kind of stuff. But unfortunately, when my dad passed away in that car accident, and plus being a teenager and girls and all that stuff in Vietnam, all that, that was the end of slot cars. So here it is, a bunch of us older gentlemen are reborn again, and the racing really does it. It's, you get everybody together, and we all know each other. We all pat each other on the back and do this and stuff, and have a great time at races, as you saw. And it's just really a great hobby for so many reasons. But he covers all those reasons in this book. And if you haven't read this book, you know, get it. It is so worth it. And if you get to see Eddie in person, as I do often, then Electric Dreams, get his John Hancock autograph, whatever you like to call it. So, but I just love this book so much. So, yeah, and I use this as a bookmark. Great place. Anyway, great book, really. If you don't have the book, get it. It's really worth it. Read it. I guarantee you start reading it, you won't be able to put it down, especially if you're in our age group, because it just makes you relive the whole hobby. Talking about another book. This book was given to me by my friend, Dr. Chris Landon. Now, it's missing the cover. I'm hopefully going to find a cover for it, but the book is in perfect condition, and this is this book, if I can get the page open, is a guide to model car racing, and it was written in 1967 or 8. Let me see. 67. Wow. The year after my dad passed. So I never saw this book, or maybe I did. But it was written by a very prolific writer who did a lot of books, and this one is written. Boy, it's Erwin Stabler, or is that Stabler? No, that's Stabler. He wrote a lot of books on a lot of different subjects, but with this book, he got the help of everyone from Ruskit to Monogram to Revell to Carroll Shelby to help with this book, because they so much supported slot car racing. And when you read through this book from 1967, and you can see it's just absolutely in perfect condition. A little yellowed, but I mean just perfect condition. I love the little drawings in here. And these are all throughout the book. There's lots of really cool pictures of, you know, how-tos, making your own frames, making your own motor mounts. Some of you may know this book, but I was very fortunate to get this book. It even goes into drag racers. I mean, these old school frames, I don't think anybody makes those anymore. We do make them, but they're not that style any longer. I used to make those. But there's some pictures in here of some of the cars, and the cars are beautiful. It talks about everything from making layouts to routing tracks. You name it, it's in here. And it talks about full-size cars too, and how these cars were turned into slot cars. It's a great book. You can find them still. I found one on eBay for $127, my goodness. But the thing that makes this book really special is that my good friend, Dr. Chris Landon, got this book, and he knew the writer. Evidently, he was interviewed in it and helped with the book when Chris was like 14 years old or so. And you see there's Erwin Stabler's signature there, and a little note he wrote to the doc. And down here is a note the doc wrote to me. And of course, you guys can freeze frame this and read it if you want. He gave me this book on my birthday. I forget when. And of course, what it's saying here, if you're not going to freeze frame it, is to Steve, I was 14 years old when I was interviewed for this book, when I told him it was a passing fad. Yeah, passing fad. How about that? You hear it all the time. People say slot car racing is dead. Well, guess what? It's not dead. Not by a long shot. This is just amazing. I cherish this book, and I'm finally reading it now because Eddie's book got me wanting to read more books about slot cars. I mean, if you love something, you can never learn too much about it. You're always going to find stuff you didn't know. So now I'm taking a tutorial by the famous it's Gonzo. It goes by Hector Gonzalez, who is notorious for making beautiful 124 scale slot cars, and he's got a video series that you can get from. Came back to me, Keith Kanaka. Now, Keith Kanaka and builds these beautiful cars. They reside at Buena Park Raceway. And how I found out about Buena Park Raceway, and you can look it up online, it's Buena Park Raceway. They have a website too, a fabulous one, lots of things you can get. They have like 4 different tracks. And they've got a king track, flat track, they got a king track, curb track, they've got a 132nd track, I think they have an HO track, and they have a drag track where they have drag races. And this is a slot car commercial track in a building that was made in the 60s, so it's very reminiscent of the 60s. And they have all kinds of races there, and the one that really appealed to me, and Eddie Shore told me about this, and so did Marco of Electric Dreams. They like to build hard bodies. Hard body cars, 124th, and race them, and it's done retro, old school, where you have to build the frame. And so I'm taking the tutorial that Keith sent me on video, which is very extensive, blow by blow, how to make a brass frame. And this brass frame is very flexible. I think they call it articulating, because basically the motor pod and the front end float the way they do, sort of on our modern 132nd cars. And it's pretty involved, and you have to use certain motors, you have to use certain types of tires, and the cars have to look as much as they can like the actual cars. So I've had this for a while, and this is a McLaren. Oh, you know, all the time I've been saying a 6B, it's an 8B. I do that a lot. Hey, there's a lot of cars out there, and they, you know, Lotus 38, Lotus 25, Lotus 23, 917s, 908 / something or other Porsches. I mean, it's extensive, and it's hard to keep it all on the track. But I've got this McLaren, and this is the closest thing to an M6 I could find. I'd really like to have an M6A or B, but there it is. It's still a beautiful car, and it's 124 scale, and the kit's amazing. And I always thought maybe I'd build this and put it on display, but when I learned about hard body racing, I decided that this would become a slot car. So I'm a little tired. So these are the sections of the body, and they're actually made the way the car is actually made, whereas the front end is separate from the doors and from the back end of the car. And so I'm going to build this as close to the real car. It's got to have the actual interior in it as much as possible. Looking through the interior, you should not be able to see the track through it. The rules are quite extensive. If you go to online, you can look up the rules about it. So I don't have that information with me right now, but if you go to Buena Park Raceway, I do believe they have the links there, and they have all the links to the 124 scale building hard body group, and they've got lots of pictures there and stuff like that. But you know, I used to do it when I was a kid. I used to convert plastic kits and vacuum form bodies, ones too, and build model frames, and I really want to do that again. I just think that will be a really cool thing to do, and I'm very excited about it. And yeah, that's what I'm doing next. So yes, I'm still flying. Yes, I'm still launching rockets. We had a huge rocket launch today, and I mean huge. We must have had 30 something people there or more, and launched rockets over and over again, maybe as much as 50 times. We launched 4 or 5 rockets at the same time, which was what we call a drag race. It was a great day, and all that happened in a 2-hour period, because where we were launching, we really only can launch between 8 and 10, 11ish o'clock, depending on the winds and how they come up. So we got up 5 to go do this, and I just edited 2 videos, and now I'm making this one, and then I'm going to edit this video. So, but what do we do now? I've talked your ear off. I haven't changed the camera angle once, and I talked about books, and I talked about model kits, and I talked about how we're going to make 124 scale cars. Next weekend, I'm going to be going to Richard Rodriguez's house. We're gonna race on his track. It's a far out slot car race. We're gonna have it at his place. As you know, if you're familiar with the Far Out group, we move around from track to track. Some of them are in homes, some of them are commercial tracks like Big Al's and Electric Dreams. I like them all. I used to like the home tracks the best, but no, I really like them all. Anywhere we're together with friends and racing, I like it. So we're going up to Richards. He's a big car nut, just like the rest of us, and he has his Fiat Abarth, and he wants to see my Fiat, so I'm going to drive it over there. So he's in Silver Lake, and his track is routed wood. It has, some landscaping, and little buildings and stuff like that. Not took too much of it, because he really wants it more for racing. And I've always wanted to go there. It's a really sweet, nice little track, and so I'm looking forward to going over there. And he's a great guy, so it's always fun to be around. It's fun to be around all of them. So I think I will close this by showing you this Thunder Slot McLaren. Now I know Slotted's coming out with some McLarens very shortly that I hope I can get. But this car is amazing. It truly is. I mean, this thing is so well engineered that the frame is very, very thin and very flexible. The motor pod's very adjustable. It is a sidewinder, not an angle winder, but tires are great right out of the box. Everything about this car is so adjustable. The front end, being able to get the wheels to sit on your track right, because out of the box a lot of times they don't. They sit up too high or they sit too low. There wasn't a single adjustment I couldn't make on this car when I tuned it up to get it right. Now looking at the motor, it does need break-in, but despite that, this has got to be the fastest car I have on any track, let alone this one. So I think I'll show you that. So there's something I haven't been able to do before either, and that is, get the whole track in there. Of course, I'm not following the car this time, but you'll get an idea, how well it goes. But it is nice to have this tripod. Now, it's hard for me to see without walking down here and looking. Yes, you can. Yeah, it's right there. Okay. So, well, let's clean the tires real quick. Always a good thing to do. Not that it probably needs it, because even when they're dirty, this thing sticks. In fact, the first time we ran it, the guys are saying you need to take the magnet out of it. I said, I know, I never run magnets. It didn't have one. So here we go. And it's quiet, and it just stays put, and it does not come out of this track. Except when I do that. I didn't brake in time, that was my fault. So we try not to do that. There. Now the tires get a little dirty, but even at that, it's doing really well. Now I think I will take the camera off so you can follow. Geez, woo! This thing is fast. I'm doing laps on this track. Average laps are about 7 seconds, and when I tested it, it was like almost 5. Amazing car. So if you've never got a Thunder Slot before, I highly recommend getting one. So that's going to do it this time for us. And God, I like this car. Let me show you again up real close. Because it's, I mean, who doesn't like? Well, maybe there's some of you who don't like a McLaren. But I find it hard to know why you would. So it's got some nice photo etch parts in it too. It's just it's a great car, and I love it. So that's gonna do it. And next week we'll be at Richards, and yeah, I'm gonna cover it. I'm gonna cover the race, and my head's kind of cut off. I'm sorry, but so that's where the next Slot Car Fun will happen. I forget the name of the track. I'd have to look it up. Should I do that? I'll just take a second, and I got my clicker. Well, as it turns out, the server is very slow to respond. I see I got a black screen coming up, which means it is slowly connecting. But yes, we will be at Richard Rodriguez's track this coming up Saturday, and I look so forward to going there. And I will cover the whole thing on video and take some pictures. And I'll see you then. And I just want to thank everybody for your support and all the likes and all the wonderful comments. And also thanks to many of you who helped on Buy Me a Coffee with the wish list to get the laser printer after PayPal. Cost me a great deal of money, which was quite a setback. Yes, they have still not addressed the issue yet. They still have not recovered my money, and they are basically ignoring me. They gave me some credit to my account. Oh, how nice of them. Which, if I use the credit and then my case is not approved, then I owe them that money too. And currently they're saying I do owe them money. I don't owe them any money because, oh look, it came up. I don't owe them any money. I just don't. It's just that they made a big mistake. So I want to thank all of you for helping us with that, and for buying me the coffee too, or buy me a coffee, which many of you have done. So it's really helping out the studio, and it's helping me keep making these videos and content that I'm doing on a wide range of topics, all from Star Trek, yeah, well that too, because I worked on Star Trek, but from slot cars to monster making to airplanes to all about our studio and everything. How-tos, showing you how to build models and everything else. I do all this for free, and I make these videos, and they do task time, and they do cost money, and you know who you are. You've helped me a great deal, and I love you for it. We'll see you next week.